is talk about our incident that occurred back on April 4th. During the last council meeting, Fire Chief Paul Segala spoke about the incident, which was dubbed the state incident. Tonight, we're going to take a look at the incident from the perspective of the police department. We're going to recognize some members of the community and recognize the heroic efforts on the part of our officers. Bear with me while I go through this. It's as short as I can get it while still really capturing the event.
All right.
On Monday, April 4th at about 1:45 p.m., a small fire ignited in a scrap metal recycling yard on State Street between Monte Vista and Ramona. As the call was transferred to fire dispatch, our officers rushed to the scene. First on scene was Officer Eric Rivera, followed shortly thereafter by Officers Jared Burns and Amanda Bergman. Initially, the fire seemed benign and confined to a small area in the recycling yard, but west winds gusting at 23 miles per hour fanned the flames. Looking at this area from above or from the street, one would only believe industrial facilities were at risk. But our officers knew better. Just east of the industrial yard is a tree-lined, dead-end residential road with several homes. As the fire continued to grow, Officer Rivera recognized the imminent danger and began to direct efforts to evacuate the homes. Officer Rivera, Burns, and Bergman rushed down the smoke-filled room. They separated, and each began door-to-door evacuations. The winds continued to push the flames to the east as the trees separating the road from the yard began to ignite. The fire moved quickly towards the residences as the officers began to remove victims from their homes. Officer Burns, who had begun evacuations furthest down the road, became trapped in the backyard of one of the residences, 4779 State Street, as the front of the home caught on fire. He had with him a group of residents evacuated from their homes. He assisted them in climbing a fence to safety to another backyard to escape the fast-moving flames. His evacuation route to the north was eliminated as the fire moved across the road to the homes. There were still other occupied homes to the south. Officer Burns continued to move south, collecting evacuees or victims as he evacuated 3 additional homes down the street. In all, Officer Burns led at least 10 victims towards the dead end away from the fire. As the group made their way south on the dirt road, they ran into a locked chain-link gate that stood in their way. A resident drove his vehicle through the gate, which allowed the group to continue, only to run into a second, much larger, solid lock gate. This gate led into a business complex off Mission where Landmark Fence and Gate Company is located. Officer Burns could have scaled an adjacent fence to safety, but the others in the group would not have made it. Officer Burns remained with the group as the fire continued to threaten them. As Officer Burns led these victims to the south, Officer Bergman and Officer Rivera evacuated several residences to the north. Officer Bergman's uniform was burned as she shielded an elderly woman during the trek past the flames towards State Street. Officer Rivera tried to reach Officer Burns, but the fire had already blocked his path. He realized the group's only escape would be to the south towards Mission Boulevard. Officer Rivera had burning branches fall upon him as he tried to reach Officer Burns. His uniform and face were singed by the flames. Reaching as many victims as they could from the north side, Officer Bergman and Officer Rivera drove around to the south side to assist Officer Burns and his group of residents. Excuse me. As the fire continued to grow, it was feared the fire would move to the south and towards the dead end where Officer Burns had taken his group. Officers Rivera and Bergman sent additional officers to Landmark Fence and Gate Company, adjacent to the dead end of the residential road. Officer Rivera and Officer Bergman went to assist with the rescue of Officer Burns and his group of evacuees. Standing between Officer Burns' group and safety was a gate and a barbed wire fence. Other Montclair Department personnel, including Officers Chawley, Sergeant Bora, Lieutenant Kamansky, began to develop a strategy to bring Officer Burns and the group of victims to safety. They received help from the employees of Landmark Fence and Gate Company. Office Administrator Veronica Munoz directed workers to assist officers in cutting the lock to the gate. She went on to secure the company's fuel tanks and assisted in evacuating people from the business complex. Edgar Hernandez, an estimator with the company, attempted to use bolt cutters in 2 attempts to cut the lock, but he was unsuccessful. Shop foreman Jose Hernandez and welders Juan Suarez and Jose Luis Carlos, Juan Luis Carlos, I believe, moved a truck with a generator and used a grinder to ultimately cut the lock. Once open, they assisted in evacuating Officer Burns and his group of residents. Drafter Griselda Rivera's, accounting manager Tony Hoover, and general manager Al Gomez all assisted in the efforts and in evacuating people from the large business complex. After a firefight lasting nearly 2.5 hours, involving 25 engines and 6 ladder trucks, the fire was declared under control. Officer Rivera and Burns were later treated for minor injuries and smoke inhalation. No lives were lost, no serious injuries were sustained. Tonight, in addition to recognizing our police department heroes, we would like to recognize the employees of Landmark Fence and Gate Company for their selfless acts. They came to the aid of Officer Burns and the victims of the fire and assisted in evacuating the large business complex. They remained calm, they worked as a team, and they displayed great concern for the safety and welfare of others. Mayor, members of City Council, I would like to introduce to you the employees of Landmark Fence and Gate Company who distinguish themselves through selfless actions to help others. Employees, come on up. Before coming up, I'll introduce General Manager Al Gomez, Office Administrator Veronica Munoz, Accounting Manager Tony Hoover, Drafter Griselda Rivelas, Estimator Edgar Hernandez, Shop Foreman Jose Hernandez, Welder Juan Suarez, and Welder Luis Carlos. Come on up. We talked a little bit outside, and what you did out there may seem like something small and may not seem significant. But I think each of you understood the danger that was posed by our officers. In fact, you said that people that were behind the gate were panicking because of the fire. It meant a lot to them. It means a lot to us in the Montclair community that you as a group step forward to help out other community members and our police officers, and that's extremely noble. So I commend each of you for the actions that you took that day, and thank you for helping us in fulfilling our mission.
I do have a certificate of recognition for Landmark Fence and Gate Company. I'd like to submit it at this time. Who's going to come up and get it? All right. And here you are. So thank you for what your company did for our city. Thank you so much. Thanks, folks. Appreciate it a lot. Thank you.
They were really mentioning how they were looking forward to shaking the mayor's hand. And as they're going through that, I would also like to present each of you with a small token of the police department's appreciation. It's a challenge coin that displays our badge and our patch, along with the slogan, commitment to service, which obviously is a concept that you value. Can we take a photo?
Yeah, that's what
Okay.
we were just talking about.
How do you want to get the officers?
Of course, absolutely.
Officer Rivera, Officer Bergman, and Officer Burns, come on up. Sir. And although a bit premature, I'm going to ask our heroes to stay up there while we present another award. And the next award we're going to present is called the Life Saving Medal. I'd like to introduce to you Officer Amanda Bergman in the middle, Officer Jared Burns on the right, and Officer Rivera on the left. The police department awards a life-saving medal to members of the department who can be credited with saving human life with due consideration for the safety of others and is performed in a manner that enhances the profession or departmental image. During the state incident, each of the officers recognized the imminent danger the fire posed to the residents on State Street. They ran towards the flames. Normally we're running towards gunshots, not flames, guys. They ran towards the flames to begin evacuations of the residents. In placing their own lives at risk to save others, each displayed courage, selflessness, and humanity. Working as a team, they helped to rescue at least 15 residents, some of whom would have perished in the flames had it not been for their distinguished actions. So it goes without saying that I'm extremely proud of each of you, and it's my honor to work with each of you. With that, I'm going to present to you the medal, which you now have the honor to display on your uniforms to represent your distinguished acts. So thanks to each of you. Mayor would like to have you turn around.
Turn around. Thank you. Great job. Amanda, this is for you. Thank you. Jared?
We're ready.
You are? For you, sir. Thank you. Eric? This is for you. All right.
And I'd like to ask Officer Rivera to stay up there for a minute, and the other two officers, thank you again. Thanks, thanks, Jared. The story doesn't quite end there. I'd like to share a story about compassion displayed by Officer Rivera. About 2 weeks after the fire, Officer Rivera was in the lobby of the police department just handling another call. A woman walked in and he asked if he could help her. Ironically, during their chance meeting, Officer Rivera learned the woman was a victim of the fire. She and her family had lost their home, a car, most of their personal belongings. Just prior to their home being engulfed on April 4th, Officer Rivera found her 15-year-old son asleep on the couch of their State Street residence, unaware of the fire. His mother had tried in vain to call him. She knew this fire was occurring and tried in vain to call him, but he wasn't answering his phone. Her son was one of the group of residents that had been taken to safety down to the south end of the alley, or to the road. Since the fire, Ms. Rodriguez and her 3 sons had been staying with family, but they needed assistance in securing more permanent housing. Having just attended crisis intervention training, Officer Rivera reached out to the city, county, and state resources. He found that the help that could be provided to Ms. Rodriguez was limited. So instead, he reached out into his own pocket and set the family up at a motel. He worked in partnership with the Welcome Inn motel, set them up in a motel for 2 weeks. He set up a GoFundMe account for the family to help solicit additional donations. As you can see, Eyewitness News came out and did a story on Officer Rivera. They praised him for his kind and compassionate acts. Ms. Rodriguez, who was helped by Officer Rivera, called him her guardian angel. This isn't the first time Officer Rivera has used personal funds to help others. Without interrogating him, we'll probably never know how many others he's helped. He's not looking for recognition or praise, and he remains humble in his endeavors to help others. During his daily duties, he embraces the concepts of community policing, but his acts reach far beyond those concepts. Officer Rivera has proven he cares about the Montclair community and possesses deep-seated compassion and empathy for others. And we're proud Officer Rivera is a member of the Montclair Police Department. Before we let everybody recognize you and applaud, I'd like to call up Ms. Rodriguez. She came to the meeting tonight and wanted to say a few words. Ms. Rodriguez?
Hello. I just really want to thank everybody, fire department, police department, everybody sending my son. I was frantic for 3 hours until I actually was able to find him. Yes, we lost everything, but as for personal items, they can be replaced, but my son's life would never be replaced. Like I say, he's my guardian angel. I mean, he's been there throughout this whole time, and I just really want to thank everybody, and I'm so proud of him and that he's been recognized for everything he's done. Thank you.
So again, Officer Rivera, for your selfless acts, we commend you for that as well. Thanks again. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much, Chief, for bringing these officers before us and our fence folks. Thank you for the job that you all did. It's wonderful to have community heroes like you. Thank you very much again. With that, I'm going to pause for a second. Those of you who need to leave, now's the time. And then we will continue with the council meeting shortly. Over.